You probably saw the news this past Sunday, May 18th. A really, really awful fire near Hyderabad's Charminar. The initial reports were just stark, coming from such a historic, usually vibrant part of the city.
Yeah, absolutely devastating. So today we're going to dive into what happened. We've looked at reports from On India News, NDTV on YouTube, sort of the immediate on-the-ground stuff, and also a more pulled-together piece from the CSAT Daily.
Right, so the idea is to really piece together the critical information for you, give you a clear picture of the event, why it's so significant, and, the initial fallout.
Exactly. So let's start with the basics. The event itself.
Okay. It kicked off early, right? Around 6:00 a.m. Sunday morning.
That's right. 6:00 a.m. IST in the Gulzar House area. And like you said, that's right near Charminar. Famous spot, loads of history, especially known for pearls and jewelry. Think Chudi Bazaar, Lad Bazaar, that whole area.
And the building. What do we know about the specific building?
It was identified as the Srikrishna Pearls building, described as a ground plus one structure. So ground floor, one floor above. Pretty common in those really old, narrow, packed lanes.
Which is interesting because even though those buildings are old, maybe with older wiring and things, they'd actually made that area vehicle-free, hadn't they?
Yeah, exactly. It was meant for pedestrians, but the lanes themselves are still, very tight.
And the human cost.
Yeah.
It's just horrific. Initial reports said 17 people died, and the really gut-wrenching part is that 8 of them were kids under 7.
It's incredibly sad. Around 10 others injured as well, and the CSAT Daily actually listed the names. It makes it very real. Prahlad, 70, Muni, 70, Rajendra Modi, 65, Sumitra, 60.
Hami, 7, Abhishek, 31, Sheetal, 35, Priyansh, 4, Iraj, 2, Rushi, 3.
Rishab, 4, Pratham, 1.5, Anuyan, 3, Varsha, 35, Pankaj, 36, Rajini, 32, and Idu, 4. Just devastating.
Truly is. And do we know anything about the cause yet? I know it's early days, but...
Yeah, well, the preliminary investigation, according to the Telangana State Disaster Response and Fire Services Director General, seems to be pointing towards a short circuit. That's the likely cause they're looking at right now.
A short circuit. In an old building, in a congested area.
Yeah.
It does raise questions, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. You think about older wiring, the density.
Yeah.
It's a concern.
Seen inside.
Yeah.
Must have been terrifying. Reports mention thick smoke filling the place really quickly. People losing consciousness.
Yeah, apparently around 30 people were inside when it started. The pearl trader's family, employees. The smoke inhalation seems to have been a major factor. Just overwhelming.
Okay, so that paints a picture of the event itself. What about the response, the emergency services?
Right, the response. So the fire department, initially 11 fire tenders were sent. Later reports mentioned 12 were actually deployed in total.
Okay, 12 fire trucks. But I remember seeing something in the On India News reports. Some concerns about delays, especially with certain equipment.
Yes, that was a point raised. Locals and even some initial reports mentioned a delay in getting specific gear needed for dealing with heavy smoke. Apparently, that wasn't fully available until about 7:30 a.m.
Which, if the fire started around 6 a.m., that's quite a gap.
It is a significant window, yeah. Though it's worth noting they did deploy some advanced stuff eventually, a fire robot, one of those Bronto Skylift hydraulic platforms.
And a lot of personnel involved, presumably.
Oh, yeah. 17 fire officers and 70 firefighters were reportedly on the scene battling the blaze.
Okay. What about ambulances? Getting the injured to hospital?
We know 10 ambulances arrived. They took the injured to different hospitals: Osmania, Yashoda Malakpet, Apollo DRDO, Apollo Hyderabad. But this is where it gets really difficult. There were some very serious allegations from the families.
Allegations about what specifically?
About delays in the ambulances actually arriving, and also about a lack of crucial equipment like oxygen masks once they did get there.
Wow. Yeah, I think I read that in the CSAT Daily piece too. A relative claimed a little girl, 6 years old, might have been saved if they'd gotten there sooner, and that there weren't enough oxygen masks.
Exactly. Those are incredibly serious claims, heartbreaking, and something that definitely needs a thorough investigation, you'd think.
Absolutely. It's also important, though, to mention the locals, right? The community response.
Definitely. Reports from the scene said local residents jumped in straight away, trying to use water pipes, anything they could find, to fight the flames before the fire trucks even arrived.
That kind of immediate, spontaneous reaction, it really says something.
It does. Shows people trying to help in any way possible in a crisis.
Okay, so let's shift to the aftermath. The officials, the reactions.
Right. So quite a few officials showed up at the scene fairly quickly. The Hyderabad commissioner, the DCP, Union Minister G. Kishona Reddy, the city mayor. all there assessing the situation.
And there was that difficult scene at the hospital, too, wasn't there, when some politicians visited?
Yes, the CSAT Daily reported on that. Congress MP Anil Kumar Yadav and the GHMC Mayor Vijayalakshmi Gadwal went to Osmania General Hospital. They were apparently confronted by very distressed, grieving family members. Just raw emotion, anger, grief. Understandable, really.
Understandable, absolutely.
Well.
And then came the announcements about financial aid.
Yeah, both the central government and the state government stepped in. The Prime Minister announced Rs 2 lakh for the family of each person deceased.
And the Telangana state government announced Rs 5 lakh per family, right?
That's correct. RSF 5 lakh from the state.
And politically, there were statements from pretty much everyone, as you'd expect.
Yes, lots of expressions of shock, condolences. Telangana Chief Minister Revanth Reddy was apparently directing rescue efforts from the get-go, staying in touch with officials.
His deputy, Badi Vikramarka, and the local Charminar MLA Mir Zulfikar Ali also visited the site.
Right, and leaders from other parties too. KTR from BRS, Asaduddin Owaisi from IMIM, the Hyderabad MP. Both expressed shock and condolences.
Well, Owaisi's statement really stood out, didn't it? He mentioned the family's connection to the area.
He did. He emphasized they'd been there for 125 years. And he confirmed that all 17 people who died were immediate family members. Just wiped out multiple generations.
Unimaginable. Even the Andhra Pradesh Chief Minister, Chandrababu Naidu, and President Murmu sent condolences. It clearly resonated widely.
Absolutely. It's a tragedy on a scale that impacts everyone. And when you pull all these threads together, the event, the response, the reactions, the human cost is just overwhelming.
Yeah, losing that many people, especially so many children, from one family, it's just devastating. And it inevitably brings up those tough questions about safety, doesn't it? In these old, dense, historic areas.
It really does. Questions about safety rules, building codes, how well they're enforced, how prepared emergency services are for incidents in these kinds of unique, challenging environments.
So, just to kind of summarize what we've covered in this deep dive.
Yeah.
We had this awful fire near Charminar. 17 lives lost, including 8 very young children. The likely cause, initially at least, seems to be a short circuit.
Right, and while emergency services were deployed fire crews, ambulances, there are some really serious questions being asked by the families about how timely that response was and whether they had the right life-saving gear immediately available.
We've seen financial aid announced from the government and condolences coming in from across the political spectrum, but the overriding element is just this immense human tragedy.
Which really leads us to that bigger question, doesn't it, for you listening? When you think about these historic commercial centers, like the area near Charminar, packed so tightly, often with older buildings, what does this mean for safety in our cities? Especially cities that are growing fast but still have these old cores.
Yeah, what kind of systemic things need to be in place? Not just reacting, but proactively. How do you prevent something like this happening again while still respecting the history and the fact that people live and work and make their livelihoods there?
It's a really tricky balance, isn't it? Preserving heritage, keeping commerce alive, but making sure, above all, that people are safe. It's something cities everywhere, not just Hyderabad, are grappling with.